Howdy everybody. Boy, first of all, let's take a look at these cookies that we were doing earlier because I just want you to see how amazing they were. And if you get up close to them, you can see that sugar that was on them. That's the difference between the ones I made over the holidays and these, that sugar that's on there. And these are a little bit more moist because in this recipe there was that 2 tablespoons of milk that I forgot to tell you I had put in there, but I did put on the description when I was putting it in. There's 2 tablespoons of milk and of course a teaspoon of vanilla that I forgot to say let's put it in the bowl while I was cooking, but I did actually write it on the recipe so that you knew. So now we're going to do our chicken soup. So I probably 8 months ago or 7 months ago I taught you how to make refrigerator soup. That's really cool. Basically you open the refrigerator and anything that you've got left over in there you throw in the pot, and you use broth according to what you're using. If it's steak that you've got leftovers, then you're going to use beef broth. If it's chicken, likewise, chicken or turkey, you use chicken. There's also vegetable stock, and there's also a seafood stock. But anyways, we're going to do something different this time. We're not making refrigerator soup because I don't have a lot of leftovers in the refrigerator. The only leftover I have is the chicken. So we're going in the cupboard for the rest of the ingredients. We're going into our cupboards. So as you saw earlier when I was making the cookies, I had the chicken carcass in here and I had it covered in water and I cooked it down, and this is the broth that's left, if you can see it underneath there. What I did is I took the chicken out, the carcass out, and I dumped all the broth through this. Now it's got chicken in it, but at the time I dumped it out and strained it so that if there was any bones that kind of got away or anything, they would go in the strainer and I would toss them out. And so since then I have been taking anything left off the carcass. So here's actually the rest of the refuse, the rest of the carcass ready to go. I've been breaking it apart and pulling stuff off, and here's the last of the chicken. I was gonna cut up a little bit more here with you to see, so you can see it's just a random. This is what's left of the carcass. I said we would do some of it together, and I realized as I was cutting by myself that I hadn't been cutting by myself. So it's literally just random. As you can see, this is random, and I just use this right now. There's no reason to use this colander other than the strainer, other than the fact that I wanted you to see up high what I was cutting. Otherwise, I would just be cutting right into. I already have probably 3 cups of broth in there. Just it's the homemade broth because that's the best thing. I just am going to use the broth that was made by boiling our chicken. And then I do have some broth here to add to it to make it, and water. We can always add water as well. If I'm going to use pasta, I don't tend to add water, straight water, because straight water later on when if you have leftover soup, your pasta, if you're using pasta, and it swells and it takes up some of the water, and so then you lose a lot of your liquid that way. So I tend not to use water. For some reason, stocks don't tend to get absorbed just as straight water does, so that's kind of cool. So I'm going to wash my hands for a second again because I'm handling this chicken, and we'll go on. So normally when I'm making a soup, this is where I go. I will shave up some carrots that I've got in there, anything that's in the refrigerator already, any leftover vegetables, anything, just any leftover pasta, it goes into the soup. Tonight I don't have any of that stuff done, so what I'm going to do is, it's kind of easy and fun. It's a little different. I don't get to do this very often because I usually always have leftovers everywhere. And by the way, there's our leftover chicken that's done. Now my sister Shyla goes farther. I'll have to ask her what she does with this, but her animals eat this. She puts it, after she has boiled it down and all the meat and stuff off, she puts it in the food processor and chops it up and mushes it and basically emulsifies it. And she feeds it to her animals because it's her dogs and cats, because they love it. I haven't done it yet, so before I do anything like that, I'll have to talk to her about it. So I'm going to do something extremely simple this time. I'm going to, there's a couple things from the health food store. I got this thing called Farmgirl Co-op. It's called Hearty Vegetable Stew Blend, but it's actually a soup or stew blend, and it's $18 for this bag, $17.99. But it goes a long way. As you can see, I've got it about a third to half gone. And if you're just making a stew, whatever, it has a quick little recipe in it, but I never use it for stew because my stew's all cut homemade, you know that. But what it does have in it is potatoes. They're all dehydrated. Potatoes and peas and onion, carrot, corn, bell pepper, cabbage, green beans, celery flakes, and parsley. And that's all in there. So what I'm going to do is, as you can see, I've got my chicken in here. And I'm going to turn my burner on. I'm going to be adding more stock and stuff. So I'm just going to, not really even going to measure it. I'm going to kind of do it by my hand. I'm just going to see there's, and check out what that is. You can see the pieces of potato. You can see the different things that they've talked about in there. I'm just going to take a handful of that. Normally I would do 2 handfuls of that and start it, but and say that's done. But Mary Bryce Hislop told me about this vegetable soup mix that she uses when she makes homemade cheese balls. And I thought to myself, oh, that would be kind of cool. And this has different vegetables in it. You heard what I had in here, which was potatoes, peas, onion, carrot, corn, bell peppers, cabbage, green beans, celery flakes, and parsley. And this one is carrot flakes, chopped white onion, tomato flakes, peas, celery, bell peppers, green beans, and parsley. So some of the things are in the other one and some aren't. I'm looking mostly for those bell peppers because I thought, not bell peppers, but the tomato flakes. There's 1 or 2 things I could do now. I want this to be a clear chicken soup, like if you're sick and mom makes you chicken soup and you're sick. I don't want this to be, I'm purposefully not going to normally, let me start all over again. When I'm making a soup, normally I take one of my bags of tomatoes that I put in the freezer. Remember freezing the tomatoes we did this summer? And I would peel off the, Tim's going, I would peel off the plastic and I would build my soup around it. I don't want a red soup today. I want this to be the clear soup, like chicken noodle soup like your mom would make. So I'm not doing that because I don't want the tomato juice, the clear juice that comes from the tomatoes that are I don't want that. It would turn red and I don't want a red soup. So today I'm not going to do that. So I'm purposefully adding this vegetable soup mix that has tomato flakes in it. So I'm going to take a handful of this as well. And you can see, look, you can see those. This is the tomatoes, and so you can see the difference. They don't have the exact same ingredients in them, but some of them are the same, and that's okay if there's doubled up on some. So that's the other part of that. I'm going to put it right in there. Then I've already got about 3 cups, I'd say 2 to 3 cups of broth because of the chicken itself when I boiled it down. And I'm going to finish it up with this stock that I had in the fridge. And I had this stock out because I have been making, and I'm sorry, I'm going to have to do it for you. I understand I did this on my own, boo-boo, but I've been making myself homemade squash soup. Don't yell at me. I know you guys want to know how to make it, and I promise, Tim's gagging because he hates it. But I know you guys want to know how to make that homemade, and I promise I will do it with you. But I've had some squashes left over here and there, and I haven't made big recipes of it. I've been making, so that's why I have this chicken broth in there, because as you can see, I've been using it. It wasn't even close to being full, so I've been using it because you may use equal parts of chicken broth and half when you're making squash soup. So, all right. So, and I'm going to add, you can see, let's look at the ratio. Those things are going to get bigger, so you can look at the ratio. So I really need more broth. So I'm going to, yes, I'm going to do a little water on this one. And to flavor it up, because broth doesn't really have a lot of flavor, I'm sure you guys are going to guess what I'm going to say next. I'll go get it out of the fridge. It is, come on, anybody knows what this is, I'm sure. It's my Better Than Bouillon. You know how I tout this all the time, how this is like the best product in the whole world. This is how I'm going to flavor it up. I'm going into my Better Than Bouillon. It looks like I need to open another one. It truly does look like that. This is, as you can see, almost empty. But I've got another one in the cupboard, which I will go get when I'm really honing in how I want it to flavor. So I will be putting some more of this in. I'm just starting it just so you can see what I'm doing, but I'll add more of this a little bit after we're done, so I don't have to leave the frame. And like I did earlier, making the cookies, kept having to leave the frame to get things. First time I had done any videoing since God, it's been a couple of months because of everything I've been doing in the kitchen with the making salsa and the canning and the freezing. So I had kind of come in and out of the frame, and I noticed when I watched it later on that it wasn't the best videography, so I apologize for that. Also, a few of the things that I would be doing. Oh yes, I want to put some garlic in here. Okay, that's gone. So I'm gonna kind of. Normally, I would cut up all my. Again, when I'm making soup, I would normally start with dicing up my onions, and then just as the onions are right where they need to be, I would throw in that line of garlic on it, and I would put them together, and then I would I would put my tomatoes in there, and I would build my soup from there. So because there's dehydrated onions and everything in here, I don't need to add onions, so the only thing I really needed to add was going to be garlic. And again, I will go and get more of this from the cupboard afterwards to flavor it up some. And from here you can do anything. Rice, white rice, brown rice, any kind of pastas, bow ties. The little itty bitty ones are nice, not too big. Gemelli, orzo. My favorite is I love to do the alphabets, the 1, 2, 3s in the alphabets, the letters but I don't have any on me, so orzo's close. Orzo's kind of cool because it's a macaroni product, but it looks kind of like rice, but it's macaroni. And this one doesn't seem to absorb a lot. Like if you just saw me put water in here, this for some reason doesn't absorb a lot of water, whereas these guys would keep absorbing, if I've got leftovers in the fridge. But what I'm going to do today, because we had a nice last night with the leftover chicken before I got this far, I cut up a bunch of chicken, I sauteed mushrooms and onions, and I put, what's the sauce you like so much? You said, what are you doing in my Alfredo sauce? Alfredo. I put Alfredo sauce on it, and I had thin spaghetti. I'm going to chop up some of this thin spaghetti into some not very long pieces, actually. They're going to be, I'm just going to kind of go through, and I'm not going to use it all because I don't want it to absorb, because this is one of those ones that would absorb, but I'm going to do this. See these kind of random little pieces? I'm going to do this. I'm going to let them be in the soup, which is kind of nice. So so this, again, we use everything. We don't waste anything, right? So, I'm just going to keep throwing in little random sliced up pieces like that. And I'm going to let this cook down, simmer about a half an hour or so. Again, I'm going to have to go in obviously and get more Better Than Bouillon, because that's not flavored yet. I don't even have to test it to know that it's not totally flavored, because I just had that little teaspoon of Better Than Bouillon left in there, and you need a couple of tablespoons easily. So your Better Than Bouillon will go to flavor, because sometimes your chicken stock will have some flavor to it depending on what brand you buy. That was an organic one, so I don't believe there's a lot of flavor in there. Whereas if it's not organic, sometimes they'll flavor it up a little bit with chicken bouillon. So it's just the thing that I don't tend to buy it that way. I kind of like it organic so that I can control my flavor, and I know there's nothing in there that doesn't need to be in there. So you're just going to see how this is boiling. I'm going to end up turning it down to low. It's really on a high boil now. And you have everything you need. The wonderful thing is these things are going to, because they're dehydrated, these two are going to the hearty vegetable stew blend and this vegetable soup mix. They're going to get to their normal size. Again, normally I would have started a soup out by chopping onions and sauteing them, and then putting, if you want it, mushrooms in there, sauteing it with them, and then putting a little garlic at the last minute. I would have chopped up potatoes by hand. I would have done carrots. I would have, julienne them. But I didn't have any leftovers to speak of like that, and these guys are just as good, and I wanted to show you how versatile that these products are. This wasn't very much. I'll have to ask Mary exactly how much. I got it at Walmart.com. It came right to the door. This is obviously a lot less money than this. If you go to the health food store, these kinds of things. But as you can see, I'm still got a lot to that bag. I get a lot out of that bag, but it's pricier at the health food store. And this one from Walmart.com was, I want to say $10. Yeah, I think it was 10. And as you can see, now what's going to happen is there's a lot of chicken in there, and this is going to kind of give it a little bit of a chicken noodle-y kind of thing, but just not big noodles. It'll have some pasta in there. This is already cooked, so this doesn't really need to be cooked. So I really was just showing you what pieces I'm going to put in there, but I don't need to throw that in until just at the last few minutes. And that's how easy it is to make a chicken noodle soup. If I was trying to make it, you know, heartier, I would have gone out and gotten the tomatoes and would have built more of a red soup with a lot of big thick vegetables and everything in it, which we can do another day. I mean, I can certainly do that with you and show you how I start from the beginning. It's a lot like when we did the refrigerator soup, except the only difference is we will be chopping up all the vegetables and stuff fresh because I didn't have anything as leftover. I just wanted to show you the versatility of if you bought one of these products, you can see how easy it is just to keep it on your shelf. $10, keep it on your shelf. There's so many things you can use that for. So, okay, I hope you make the cookies that we did earlier. Tim's already given me the thumbs up. He likes them. He says they're better than the ones that I made this week. And yeah, so tomorrow I'm trying to think of a quick bread to make. Like, oh yes, and somebody said they wanted to make homemade bread. So that I'm trying to figure out how I can do that in taping and try to get it all in one taping. So until I can figure out the dynamics of that, I'll have to put that on the shelf for a few minutes. So thanks for cooking with me, and I'm glad we're back together. Yay! Bye.